Good late Thursday, early Friday, meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, giving a look at that infrared satellite imagery. You can kind of see here what's going on with Hurricane Rafael in toward the Gulf of Mexico. It's now a major hurricane once again. So kind of intriguing to see that it's not expected to make landfall though in the U.S. as we continue to talk about. Though there is a little bit more uncertainty tonight in some of the models that it could be something that ends up bringing more moisture eventually back toward areas of maybe the southeast here. So I know we had that influence here from Rafael that's going to be kind of cutting it off some as we look ahead toward our local area here in the near term, but could be much weaker system and then try to push its way in the opposite direction of this track here. I know the models have been just all over the place with Rafael here as we've been looking at things. I mean, the official track is it going west and then just due south toward maybe the Bay of Campeche there, but we shall see. I mean, the models, I don't know if I've seen the models this off on storms here in terms of just when I say off, I mean, it hadn't been too far off here so far per se as we're looking at things, the last few days, but as we get into the longer term, at first the track had it going toward New Orleans and kind of shifting to the south, and now some of the models want to shift it instead back to the north here as we look ahead to early next week. So it'll be a lot weaker because of the overall pattern here, but just something to kind of watch for. Now, as we go ahead and to see the water vapor, and you can kind of see how some of that moisture has, in the indirect way, been spreading our way, and kind of intriguing to see that. As we're looking at the overall scenario, this measures moisture content in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So just kind of intriguing to see. I know we would be seeing a situation where it would really weaken if it were to try to go further to the north here eventually, but we'll keep you updated, of course, if the situation requires me to. But we're not in alert mode. We have our flag logo on now. We had it for the election day that was coming up, and now for Veterans Day here. Hopefully we don't have to go into alert mode, but if we do, we'll turn that logo red and go into alert mode. I don't think that's going to be necessary, but you never know. The models have been all over the place with this. It's very odd, and we'll keep you advised. But as we go ahead and see here just the overall situation, look at the Doppler technology. I know earlier on, again, Valdosta, that area getting hammered. 12-hour rainfall kind of tells the story. I mean, they've had really bad flooding around there, and I mean, most of our area not the story, but for Valdosta, I mean, it's been an alert situation for you guys. You guys have been really hit hard by the flooding scenario there. Thoughts and prayers. I mean, as we look toward like Lowndes County, some of those areas they're getting, and I'll show it to you. This is earlier, and it was getting a little higher than this even on the estimates, and then the estimates might still underdo it, but this was kind of a 2-day type total for areas around Valdosta, give or take maybe even more like a 24-hour period. And we're talking about 20 inches of rain or so in some of those spots. Even that red was around a foot or so. I mean, that is impressive and not in a good way when many of our other zones not getting too much rain at all. I mean, Waycross got a pretty significant rain on that Thursday, 4, 5, 6 inches, but I mean, getting over a couple of days, it's a significant flash flood event. Flash flood emergency late Wednesday. We had a PDS really, at least what's considerable, is what it's called, a flood damage threat on that Thursday there. As we were looking at on in that evening hour, we had to be on the air a little bit because of that. So that's just crazy to see. We were looking at some of the information, but again, I'm just trying to keep you informed here. I don't have too much on the radar now. Kind of interested in how most things are broken up to scattered showers there toward the Palm Coast area, give or take, as we look at things. But, most of that has broken up. I know it's a different story toward like Texas. They've had some storms. I mean, this is not, whether you really expect here with, especially further west in Texas, where we had a tornado warning earlier on. Not maybe something you really see as much in November generally, the way it's setting up, but this is severe thunderstorm warning right now for Jack, Parker, and Palo Pinto counties until 2 a.m. Central Time, issued by the Fort Worth office there. So intriguing to see that at Fort Worth Weather Service. And then they've still been getting snow out toward New Mexico. Some areas getting, several feet of snow there. I mean, literally cows getting that snow there so high as in comparison to those, I mean, which is just remarkable. I think it was, I want to say, I don't have the report now. I don't think I'll go back 4 hours, but I mean, we were getting reports of maybe cows waist deep, I think it was. It might have even been higher than that in the snow. And this one report here was 24 inches. I know it says 18, but our system doesn't show higher than that. It's saying in the information, it was saying the information that drifts were between 3 and 5 feet. So very significant snowfall event in part of New Mexico. Even in the North Colorado, significant snowfall as well. You know, we really haven't had too much winter weather to talk about yet. That's a pretty impactful system as we look over that way. And then, unfortunately, further off toward the west, though, toward California, we've had some very significant wildfire danger. The Santa Ana winds being a problem, these very low dew points being a problem as we're looking toward that area. I'll go back 4 hours and then I'll put on wind gust mode. You can at least see a little, not showing it that well though, compared to what it was showing when I went 4 hours back from earlier on. But such a significant event there, as we've been watching multiple hazards here in the meteorology world, as we continue just to monitor things and track them. I know SPC Outlook thunderstorm risk for that Friday. You still have a lingering one in this light green zone. Have a severe risk that lingers on that Friday as we get out toward the west here. You see a slight risk of severe weather for Abilene, also San Angelo, and even getting down here, you see some of these areas further south like Del Rio. And then a 2% tornado risk further off toward the east. Hail risk, your wind risk. Actually, I think our system, yeah, that's odd. Okay, I think our system is misreading that a little bit. Yeah, I was wondering, that seemed like it was a little bit further west there, so for some reason our system didn't update that. I have no idea why our other system's doing the same thing. It's actually that risk here, that's the current risk, but for some reason, maybe it's the time change, I don't know. This is actually the new risk for Friday. It's a little bit further off toward the east here. So that risk is kind of the current one till 7 a.m., but it's not supposed to show it the way it did there. It's supposed to just switch all of it once at a time, you know, as we look ahead here with the new outlook. So, okay, so this is it's going to be a marginal risk for that Friday then. The tornado risk is at 2% from Dallas down to about San Antonio. So kind of just forget what I said about that risk for Friday to the west. It's going to actually translate off toward the east. The hail risk there, that's your hail risk marginal in that zone, and that's your wind risk. So wind for Friday, hail, tornado. This is the current one for right now, only till 7 a.m. So that's not really accurate for looking ahead. I don't know why it's doing that, but tornado, hail, wind risk marginal, 3 of them on that Friday there. As we're looking at things, I know, just kind of looking at our overall scenario. And there's not technically, I see here, I'm just double checking on other sources. There's not a thunderstorm risk for area on our Friday. I was kind of wondering there. I thought we might have, you know, a rogue chance at it, but I was a little surprised to see that. So yeah, no thunderstorm risk for area on our Friday. I don't know why our system is doing that, but at least we got that corrected for you pretty quick there. So again, just kind of trying to nail that down for everybody there at home, and try to keep you informed. Just trying to see exactly what is happening here with everything. Again, trying to give you that heads up here in toward the weather center. So I know also something to touch on here. We had some record high lows here toward our region as we're looking back on that Thursday. It was the hottest November 8th morning, or excuse me, let's see here. Let me check this. So they sent this out. Okay, they have what is going on here, guys? I mean, everything's messed up, I guess. So they have the wrong day on the weather service report here. I don't know why they're dating it Thursday, November 8th. Today is Friday, November 8th now, after midnight. So I guess the time change is messing everything up. But so as we're looking at things, so the report for Thursday, but they put the wrong stamp here on this. But anyhow, okay, so for Thursday, November 7th, there was a record high minimum temperature, 71 there at Gainesville. Broke the old record of 70 degrees set back in 1975. So 1 degree warmer as we're looking at things yesterday than any other November 7th in history. So that's kind of storyline right there. So I know. I will say I'm getting my days a little confused, but then I guess the weather service is too, because they have in the top part of this, they have some of these wrong here, and then our system is trying to get some days wrong too. So it's election week. Next week is Veterans Day week, so it's gonna be a 3-day weekend for a lot of folks. But of course, you got to remember what Veterans Day is all about, which we'll get to here in a moment. But it's just kind of been interesting here in terms of this in terms of some of the days kind of getting them mixed up here at points, but has been a lot of flooding as we've been talking about here as we're tracking the scenario. But let's get back to the tropics for a moment here. Okay, you can see Raphael. So that's what we're dealing with is a major hurricane again. They sent out a special update to the Hurricane Center because they were seeing information now. It's suggesting this is a major hurricane yet again. So that's pretty significant for just the record books per se. Major hurricane here in November. 120 mile an hour max sustained winds. Minimum central pressure 956 millibars. Again, looking at things here with that. Our last names on this list would be Sarah, Tony, Valerie, and William. I think there may very well be more systems to come here in November. Maybe even one or something like that to have to watch here in the weeks ahead. Hopefully we don't get all the way through this list, or at least if we go through William, at least maybe we won't have to get to the next name list here. But as we go ahead, and that'd be a special name list that's used. They used to use a Greek alphabet after we got through all these, but not going to happen this year because they've switched that around, so that doesn't happen anymore. It's just an alternative name list. If we get there, we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. I know we were expecting a very, very above average season. It's been pretty above average for sure, but it's been more about the impact. I mean, so many hurricanes here to hit the U.S., so many to impact Florida here. So we're never going to forget hurricane season 2024 as just, it's just something that's just historic in nature here as we're tracking things, as we're looking here at the Atlantic Basin. I will real quick, I'm just going to pull it up for myself here. If you guys are wondering maybe what I'm doing behind the scenes, just in case we get to that alternative name list here. I kind of wanted to look at it for myself because we haven't had to do that since they switched out of the Greek alphabet here going back. But I know it's just kind of intriguing here with this. Just trying to give you guys the latest here. And just kind of trying to see. I see the supplemental list. So, okay. So it just goes ABC and down there through it. I mean, if we were to get to the D name there on that list, it'd be, it should not. I mean, but if we did it all the way to the fourth name on the alternative list, it'd be a name, Deshaun, and then the fifth name is Emery. But as we go ahead and look here now at the climatology, you see this time of year, the chances of tropical systems in the Atlantic Basin really go down as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things. You just kind of at least have that probability go down, but we're tracking something right now out there in toward the Atlantic, of course. That did have an indirect impact in getting that moisture in there. That isolated facet would be, in some ways a catastrophic damage threat for portions of our viewing circle. We had a flash flood emergency late Wednesday there on Valdosta. Schools were impacted. 20 inches of rain if you add up to 2 days together, really. Because this was a little earlier on before we had a little more into the rain gauges, and then this is going to underdo it a little probably as well. So we're talking about just very significant rainfall of Valdosta, a historic flood event, really. And next 7 days doesn't show too much rain. I will say that some of the model guidance tonight, this is the official forecast from the Weather Prediction Center, but some of the guidance tonight starting to push more of this rain here from whatever is left of Raphael back into our area on a northerly turn. We'll see. I kind of hedged it on the forecast, maybe a little higher than some of the data is telling us, but lower than just the raw model output. So you'll see what I'm talking about here in a moment. But And then you can go to clutter.com/radar for an interactive look at things when we're not on the air. But this is one look at it. We may get more rain than this in some areas. I mean, this is just an average per se. Of course, it's not going to pick up on, and this is the forecast for the future, but it's not going to pick up on isolated areas getting so much like they did. Though I don't think we're going to see that here on Friday, Saturday. Really, as we're looking with that, though, if we get later on, we might. It's possible we could get, some area could get like an inch or two on Saturday, further toward the East Coast, maybe the first coast. We'll see. In the most in terms of those totals, but models are not handling stuff well. This is an unusual pattern. It's warmer than it should be here this time of year in this meteorological pattern we're in right now anyway. And then we shouldn't really have a hurricane down where that's at in November either. So, and that's messing everything up in the models because it's not really understanding the pattern. It's kind of the overall steering pattern is uncertain. So we're not exactly sure what's going to happen still. But you see Bradford County here where we're at. Always on for any tornado warning storm for the 62 counties. We've been doing that for 5 years now. And then I know got close to having one in Lowndes County Wednesday night while we were on for the flash flooding scenario. Of course, flash flood and severe thunderstorm coverage as necessary. Tornado coverage always when it happens. Whenever there's a tornado warning in play for any of our 62 counties, we're always on for that. And then we're talking about here, of course, when there's hurricanes, tropical storms, directly impact an area, we do special cover to those, or obviously hurricanes impacting other parts of the country, and some of those tropical storm landfalls. We haven't had that too much this year, but in other areas of the country, even if it's, a tropical storm or hurricane in another part of the country, we'll make sure to give you the latest on that as well with a direct landfall. But as we go ahead and see fog safety tips here, could have some of that as we're looking here. This in the overall pattern, and even some of the guidance of that was not exactly 100% certain on it, but just make sure you slow down and give yourself extra time to reach your destination. Make sure your vehicle is as visible as possible to other vehicles by using your low beam headlights, and leave plenty of room between you and the vehicle in front of you. And then let's get to a lighter topic for a moment. The college football playoff. This is what I think it to be now. College football playoff committee is thinking differently. They're really thinking the SEC should be way up there, and they really think highly of them. I did this before they came out with their rankings, before the AP even came out. I did this late Saturday night. Just haven't had time to go over it. I want to make sure we're not kind of trying to maybe go different based on what they're saying. Just kind of do it based on what I'm seeing with my analysis. But as we're kind of looking at the overall scenario here. So this is a lighter topic that we like to focus on here from time to time in toward the weather center. So it's just kind of always interesting to see the differences here. I mean, one thing that is the same though, both have Oregon at number 1. Now, number 2 in their rankings is Ohio State, but it can't be. And the way I'm doing this is if it's X as a bracket. So we're kind of just giving 2, 3, and 4 the spots based on the top 4 conference champs have to have them. So it's kind of switch it a little bit. I did it like that here. So I mean, in their bracket, Georgia would be number 2 as well. In their bracket, Miami would be number 3. Now, BYU would be number 4 in the bracket, but they have them ranked all the way back at number 9. I would have them higher. I mean, I'm factoring in. I'd have them closer to 4. Now, I may have them a little bit lower if I did it based on this their wall rankings, but I'm doing this as if it's the bracket where they get that spot. And they have them at 9, but at 4 in their bracket, so it's kind of confusing. But I'd have them at 4 in the bracket as well. So those are actually the same in the bracketing, at least. And then Ohio State 5, but then there starts to be a lot of divergence after that. I mean, so Indiana, they have them further down, and it just really gets divergent after that. I mean, I think they've been pretty impressive. Granted, they haven't played a really tough schedule, and in Texas, there they have them just really, in a spot where it'd be a little bit higher than me as we're kind of looking at things. As we're kind of tracking them, I know it's kind of tricky here as we're looking at it. Just kind of looking at their rankings, and I know the bracket had that a little bit differently as I'm looking off screen here, but again, just kind of tracking things. I know they would have Alabama in there right now, which I don't have them in there. And they're really undervalued on Iowa State. I have them in the first team out. They lost last week, and then Army they have all the way down at 25, and they haven't lost. And their schedule hadn't been that tough. But you have to, I mean, if they were to somehow upset Notre Dame, which I don't think is going to actually happen, but if they did, they have to be, I mean, right there, and close to getting into the top 12. I mean, I know Pittsburgh got absolutely destroyed by SMU. I didn't want to have to drop them that much, but they looked terrible in that game there last Saturday in North Texas. SMU I have in, though, and the committee doesn't have them in. They lost one game, I mean, and that was to BYU, I mean, and barely lost it. It was at home, but it wasn't like they got blown out. So I don't understand why SMU isn't in, except they just really, I mean, they have in their bracket, they're Alabama in. I have them a couple spots out. They have Tennessee a lot higher than I have them. I have them behind Boise State. They just haven't been impressive, but you have to put somebody in as a 12 team. So I did, since they beat Alabama, I put them in since they only have one loss. They have not looked good in a lot of games, but and their offense just really hadn't got a job done in a lot of acts. And they beat Kentucky by 10 the other day. They just haven't been impressive, but one loss. I had to at least put them in. The committee has them way higher than that. And FSU goes up to Notre Dame this week. Going to be a really tough game for them. I see the committee has Texas A&M just out. I don't really see it. I mean, they have 2 losses and just really not really playing all that well. So overall, I mean, they just lost by 24 points at South Carolina. I just don't quite understand why they're that close there. But as we're kind of looking at things, we'll just kind of continue to see how things transpire here in the college football season. So let's kind of look at things right now with that. As we're kind of tracking the situation there with the college football playoffs, and that announcement for everything will be set up about a month, and then those will get going a little bit after that. So that's kind of the storyline there. Again, you see here Alabama. Again, I would not have them in. The committee thinks otherwise. Again, I talked about Pittsburgh. I didn't want to have to drop them that much with this one loss, but if they went out, I mean, they would be in a situation that under the conference championship tiebreaker might not let it happen. But I mean, they gotta be consistent. They finish 11-1 and don't make the conference title game. And let me check. Do they play Miami? Let me see, because that'd be the consideration here. They don't. They do play Clemson, but Clemson, I had them way high. And they've now lost 2 games, and I just can't even have them in my first 4 teams out. I hope, for their sake, they can get back in there and maybe even make a run here at the playoff. But, I mean, that was almost unbelievable how that game transpired against Louisville the other night, Saturday night. So that's kind of the storyline with all that. I mean, again, Iowa State, first team out. I think they're more impressive. They've only lost 1 game. I don't like the idea of putting 2 lost teams like Alabama in the playoff and leaving 1 lost teams like SMU out of it, especially when their only loss was to BYU, which the committee really undervalued. They have them at 9, even though they put them at 4 in their bracket because that's the protocol. But yeah, I would have them at least closer to 4 BYU, if not at 4. So, because they haven't lost a game. So it's a tricky situation. Some of this will work itself out, especially with a bigger playoff. At least more teams get an opportunity, and you don't have a Power 5, which is now the Power 4, but a Power 5 team like FSU get left out with a 13-0 record there. But as we go ahead and see now a much more serious topic to some degree here. I know it is Veterans Day coming up, and it's always important to honor those who served in the armed forces. I know my father passing away in April at the age of 85. He served proudly in the Air Force, the United States Air Force, from 1958 to 1962. And he was also in the American Legion, a member of the American Legion Post 56 here in Stark. for many years, including being the commander at one point there and the historian a little bit later on as well. So I miss him so much, and it's always important to honor those, thank those who served in the armed forces there. I know there's going to be a ceremony on Monday morning at Starks Veterans Park. So, and there'll be many ceremonies across our area here honoring those who served in the armed forces. The weather does look pretty good, not perfect, maybe, and it could switch around because of the tropics. It looks pretty good, but it's always important to honor those who served in the armed forces there. And we'll go ahead and look at this here. I know I was going to go a little lower in rain chances for veterans. I had to up them here last minute because of some of the guidance trying to put the rain back in there for Monday. This is still not a, forecast where you really have a whole bunch of certainty here, which is not exactly great, but we'll do our best here to get through it. I mean, this is not often. I mean, I see the models just dumping back and forth, north, south, west, with something like that in the Gulf, but it's not often you have a hurricane in that spot in the Gulf in November either, and it's really warm for this time of year too, which is factoring in. We're way above average here. Yeah, I mean, I like the temperatures personally. It's just, this is really getting up there. Sometimes it'll be below average here as well. We saw a couple years ago around Christmas how cold that was. But we're really seeing some warm temperatures. Hopefully we'll get some cooler in here ultimately as we get later in the month. But you see 30-40% chances for rain here as we look. Friday 30, Saturday, Sunday, Monday 40. It's really iffy because that could end up going to like 60 or 70 on one of those days, or it could really be more like 20 to 30. It really depends on the tropics, and parts of our area might get a lot more than others, as we've seen with Valdosta. It could be in this case if something, the remnants of maybe Raphael or a weak tropical system try to get further north, then maybe it goes up to 60 or 70 in our western areas. But we shall see. You see 30-20% chances we get later on in the period. Temperatures are falling off here some as we look ahead, but that's still highly variable as well. We're going to be kind of looking at the situation, kind of monitoring just some of the different trends here as we kind of look at things. I know 69 on that Friday, 67 Saturday morning, Sunday morning here as we try to continue to give you the latest to 65, 63, 60, maybe, hopefully we get, closer to the averages, which would be dipping some as we get later on into toward November. These are just the averages for what would be here Friday, November 8th, but, so, I mean, that's 11 degrees, at least, in this, just taking one bit of data here, 11 degrees above average for that high on Friday. That low is, what's the average, say 52 between them. I mean, that's 17 degrees above average. All we're setting those record low highs, or excuse me, record high lows. Let's say that backwards. Record low highs might happen at some point, especially maybe into the winter. Maybe one of these days we'll get that. I mean, really cold weather, but right now we're talking about record high lows here. The highest minimum temperatures we've seen going back into the record books, 100, 150 years, give or take, for the certain dates here. So, again, at least the weather is not so unlike something just, off the charts bad or anything right now, though. But, I mean, we've dealt with it this year. We really, really do not want any more name systems around. I mean, Raphael indirectly causing, not directly, but indirectly, Hurricane Raphael causing that 20 inches or so of rain around Valdosta, which is extraordinary, especially with a lot of areas getting way less than an inch of rain. Most of our area really getting less than an inch of rain, I would say, but Valdosta got about 20 inches of rain, so yikes. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up for now, though. That's to do it for tonight, I think. Just thanks so much for tuning in, trusting me. And I've been watching some of those rip current threats, so to keep those in mind. We've had some areas where we've had, like, river flood warnings as well, so just be careful with those. I know we were dealing with that in the aftermath of Milton here, locally even, towards some of our southeast towns, even Helene, of course, because of all the rain we got from it. And then as we look, I mean, it's a situation where some of that rain around Valdosta is so significant here, and they're having some issues lingering from that. So just got to continue to watch things here in toward the Weather Center as we keep you updated as it's necessary on the latest information on all the different platforms. I know you do see those on the screen. Our next formal update will be late Tuesday, but of course we'll be back on sooner if it is warranted here in toward the Weather Center. So thanks so much for tuning in here for this update, your late night update. And I'll be back late Tuesday or more unless we need to pop back in sooner with more information. So thanks so much. Stay safe. Enjoy your weekend.